So I just want to finish off by making two more points because again, I don't want this video to go super long. And then I'll just remind you about some vocabulary that I think you need to really look through within the textbook, all right? So the first thing to think about is that what's so important to nonverbal communication is really where we started in this conversation, and that is when we lose certain parts of nonverbal communication in certain parts of social media communication channels, is that we lose the ability to really convey certain emotional states with one another. Because again, nonverbal, because it starts so young, it starts at such a fundamental moment of our lives of who we are as human beings, is that it's almost involuntary more than verbal is, right? Verbal is all about choices, but we have been so conditioned as human beings to react physically to what's going on, surprise, or whatever, that we, as the expression says, we wear our emotions on our sleeves, or I could read her emotions on her face, right? That whole idea. So they're both involuntary, and that means there's a sort of credibility there. That's why, I've talked about the idea of sort of observing other people, maybe a couple or a small group, as they're communicating with each other, where you can hear the words that they're saying, but if you actually focus on the nonverbals, they may tell a different story about certain relationships in that group or that dynamic or duo than what's actually coming out of their mouths. The same thing, if any of you have had me for like a media inquiry or a media writing class, I often have people watch, whatever, a TV show, a feature film, whatever, and I say, just mute the sound, turn it down, and just watch the nonverbals that are going on with the actors in the scene, because you'll either A, be able to tell whether you can still figure out what's going on in the story, or you might find some different character nuance that you never really noticed before because you were so distracted by the words. So any of these would be a really good exercise to do. So the other two points that I want to leave on here is that obviously nonverbals are super important, but nonverbals influence other people, right? Again, in a one-to-one situation where we either take your meaning the way you intended, or we don't, or look at how people, and this is the easiest example, but look at how photographers and models choose to pose themselves when they're trying to sell like a handbag or clothing or whatever, right? Or a soda bottle, whatever they're selling. The pose that they choose, we tend to sort of we read into something about who we think they are, who we might want ourselves to be, etc. So those nonverbals are always sort of helping to convey I should say they influence other people, because what they're really doing is conveying a sense of who we think we are, right? So the person who strides up to the podium on speech day in speech class, super confident, they're trying to get you to think, no worries here, I got this, you're in good hands. Versus the person who kind of barely makes it up there, trips over every chair, obviously is sweating a little bit, their lip is quivering a little bit, right? You know right off the bat that like they don't got this, right? This is not gonna go well whatsoever. So our nonverbals in so many ways communicate to others either who we actually are, or in certain moments and circumstances who we would like other people to think that we are. Okay, so really nonverbals are all about identity. Okay. And the last thing I want to say, and then I'm going to stop this recording. I apologize, it went a little longer than I wanted it to, but I want you to make sure you cover the actual vocabulary terms for a lot of the ideas I've already talked about. So these are concepts like haptics, right? Or proxemics, chromatics, all these sort of phrases that the text phrases, vocabulary words that the textbook goes through. That's what you're going to want, kinesic, I can't say that one. But any of the terms that we use to cover the idea of space or movement, right? Or time. Because that's the last thing, I guess I lied. There's one more thing I want to mention, is time plays a huge factor in how we communicate. And I believe I asked you to do this in one of the upcoming assignments, but it's escaping me a little bit here. But basically the idea is some people really need to accomplish certain tasks in a certain order or only focusing on one before moving on to the next task. Whereas other people, obviously we use the term multitask all the time. But when you think about that idea and place it within the concept of communication, then that is a big recipe for potential miscommunication, because we have one person who's expecting the conversation to go in this very sort of one, get this done, then move on to the next sort of role taking, boom, 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 expectation. And the other person, maybe with their phone in their hand and then half an eye on it and half an eye on you, they think it's okay to multitask while they communicate, or they're most comfortable with that. So our expectations of time non-verbally also can affect our interactions with each other. And I think that's really relevant when the fact is so many of us almost always carry a mini computer in our hand. And in some ways, I jokingly say, I was just really quickly saying, the thing that always makes me laugh when I'm at the grocery store, like at Wegmans or whatever, is when I see some, mostly you guys, like younger people, they're trying to get something done, get something out of their cart, into their cart, whatever, and they're having trouble. And I don't do this because I don't want to be the old guy, but I kind of want to come over and go, why don't you take your phone out of your hand and put it in your pocket for a second? Then you'd have both hands to use. So my point is that the nonverbals there, the physicality of communicating and communicating with a mini computer in your hand all the time, that's another sort of important context for how we think through these ideas. Okay? All right. I apologize for the long video lecture today. I do hope you watched it. I hope you got you thinking about the nonverbals of your communication. And like I said, don't be weird about it. Don't be goofy. But maybe if weather's nice, take your lunch outside, maybe in a semi-public place where you're separated, but you can kind of sort of keep an eye on a conversation near you and sort of watch and go, oh, they seem like, he's asking her out, or they seem like they're dating or something. Sorry, my glasses are driving me nuts. They're dating or something, and the words seem positive, but you notice that she's kind of keeping her arms closed or close to her body. She's maybe not quite physically as close as you would think she might be. And so all of those sort of clues and cues might be actually teaching you something that, oh, he's maybe more interested in her than she is interested in him, or vice versa, or whatever. So again, don't be creepy about it. Don't be weird. But maybe when you're on a lunch break from work or whatever, and you get to people watch for 20 minutes, you might learn something, okay? All right, folks, I'm going to shut up now. Thank you for watching, and I will look at your work on Wednesday, all right? Thanks, everybody.